Are we blessed?
We are blessed. Blessed, Dan.
And there's many blessings to come.
Thank you.
And, some of you have heard some of my testimony, and I'm just going to go over it a little bit tonight. Just how bad things were when I came to recovery. And God has been talking to me all week about be active, be action, action, action. He keeps telling me, action. So when I was at my worst, I really only drank for about 12 years after my husband walked out on me and my children. But the last 7 years of my drinking, in that 7 years, I was on my back in hospital for almost 20 weeks with alcoholic hepatitis. And Dr. Barkley and Dr. Murray told me, you can never drink again. You won't make it the next time. But I wasn't home, I wasn't home 2 weeks when I was drinking again. Because alcohol is cunning and it's insidious. And we all know who is cunning and insidious. So we know what was in that bottle. But in the next couple of years or so, I had my stomach pumped 3 times. Twice because I was drinking and taking pills, and I overdosed twice. And once because I had alcohol poisoning. I was sent to Dartmouth a couple of times. The sheriff took me one time because they didn't trust me to get there. And then I came home from there the second time, and I was sent to Counselor Ann McLean, and she sent me to monastery for 30 days. I went through that. I come out of that, I was sober for a year. I started drinking again. I mean, it doesn't matter how far I got down, I just kept going back until the day that I was drinking. My daughter got married on the Saturday, and I was drinking really, really heavily until the Tuesday. And I was in the kitchen with my 3 daughters, and they were getting on my nerves. And Elaine told me, I gave this testimony a little bit at the retreat, and Elaine kind of corrected me because I didn't remember everything. And she said, Mom, I told you that if you didn't stop drinking, you had to move out. You had to leave, and you walked out. And I remember walking out, and I remember being at the hospital, talking to Dr. Barkley, but I got that wrong too, apparently. I thought that I left the hospital and the police picked me up on the way, walking around the streets. She told me that Dr. Barkley called her and told her I was there, and he said, there's 2 choices. I don't know if you remember this, but this is what she told me. You can come and get her, or I can call the police because she can't be walking around. And Elaine said it was the hardest thing she ever did, but she said to Dr. Barkley, I'm not coming to get her. And the police took me to jail. I don't remember any of this. The only thing I remember is waking up, lying on something cold, and I was in jail. And my son had to pick me up. And that was the real bottom. From there I went to detox, and there's a big miracle happened there, but I can't get into everything tonight. But Ann McLean said to me, Ann, no more 30 days. You have to go to a long care facility. There's one in St. John, New Brunswick, and I want you to go there. It's for a long term for women. So she said, will you go? And I said, yes. And she said, don't forget, you can't just pray. You have to give it all to God, and you have to trust Him. And that was in my head all the way going in the bus to St. John. And when I got into Amana House, the girl went through what I had to go through, and it sounded like a real hard program. You had to stay there at least 3 months, and longer if you wanted to. And I went upstairs to my room that night, and I got down on my knees, and I said, God, I surrender. Please help me. Please, Lord, help me. Yes. And He said to me, yes, I'll help you, Ann, but there's work to do. There's action you have got to do. You can't just put the cork in the bottle. That doesn't work. That's not working. You have to work on self-esteem. Your biggest thing you have to work on is forgiveness, forgiving people. You have so much anger in you. You have so much resentment in you. And you have a lot of self-loathing. And so one of the things I had to do was go through the steps, the 12 steps. And I haven't looked at the 12 steps for a long, long time, but just lately I started looking at them again. And in those steps, first of all, you have to admit you're powerless. And you have to turn your will and your life over to the care of God. And then there's a step where you have to do a fearless and moral inventory of yourself. And that means that you have to go back as far as you can remember in your life and write down everything you have done wrong in your life up to this point. And that's hard. I mean, that took me a week to do that. And I never slept much that week at all. I was walking around like a zombie most of the time. And then the next step is you have to go and you have to admit to yourself, you have to admit to God, and you have to tell one other person the exact nature of your wrongs. That's not going for confession. It's just going so you can hear it out loud. You write it down, you read it, and you say it out loud. And the night before I had to go there, I really needed sleep. And I went in, had a bath, and it was around 2 in the morning. And I came into my room, and I lay down in that room. And all of a sudden, in the darkness, there was this light. And a voice said to me, I love you, and I'll be with you, and I'll never leave you. And I don't know if anybody's had that happen to them, but if you have, there's no way to explain it. You just can't explain it. All I know is that all I wanted to do was stick my head out the window and yell to everybody, God just came in here and told me he loves me.
Yes.
And the next morning when everybody came in, they looked at me and they said, well, what happened to you? And I said, why? They said, there's something all around you today. And I had to go for that meeting that morning. And they said, come downstairs, we're going to do a relaxation tape so that you can relax before you go. So they went down and they did a tape, and it was about floating down a river on a raft and all of this. And when it was finished, they said to me, well, were you floating down a river? I said, no, I was walking on that river. And then when I went and I talked to this person, and I called them, and called the man house and said, I'm ready to be picked up. And she said to me, are you still walking on the river? I said, no, I'm higher than that. It was just a great feeling. But the next steps that you have to take is you have to make amends to the people that you've hurt.
Yes.
Whether they want to accept it or not, you have to do it wherever it's possible. And then you have to ask God to take all of these things from you. Then you have to forgive yourself and forgive others.
Yes.
You have to get rid of that resentment, because if you don't get rid of that resentment, you'll pick up that bottle again. I mean, I knew I would. And then you pray to God, and you ask Him for the knowledge of what His will is for you and the power to carry it out.
Yes.
And you have to watch. You have to watch and make sure that you don't let inside influences come into your life so that you'll start drinking again. And so then when you've done all that, you have to go spread the message to other alcoholics and to practice the principles in all your life. And when I was going through that, I realized I had talked about Dr. Bach, and I said to him, you know, the steps, you know, they sound like the Bible. And he said, well, don't you know that they took them from the Bible? And I said, well, I think I remember that, but I forgot it. So it's true, you know, when you come into a Christian life, you have to admit that you need God.
Yes.
You have to admit you can't do anything without Him.
That's right.
And you have to do all those things. You have to think of all the things you've done wrong. And you have to try and tell God and tell Him you're sorry.
Yes.
And you have to make amends with people. And you have to forgive people. And you have to watch for outside influences. And God has been telling me this last couple of weeks, and I think it's come from the messages and things that I've heard that I have. He said, Ann, you're doing everything that I've been asking you to do, except there's one thing I want you to do. I want you to take more action. I want you not to just read the Bible, but to know the Bible.
Yes.
He said, I don't want you to read it like it's a novel. I want you to know it. I want you to understand it. And go into Bible study. If you don't understand what you're reading, ask somebody who does, who can explain it to you. Because if you want to be the Christian that you want people to see, and the messenger that I want to send, then you have to do all that. And it's true, because I can go and I can tell people how much God loves them and everything God's done for me, but if they're asking me questions of the Bible and I can't answer those questions, then I'm not helping them. I mean, there's so many things that I have to learn, and I've found that the last few weeks. There is so many things that I don't know. But God said, I'll be with you. But you have to take action. I want you to take action. I want you to be obedient, and I want you to trust me.
Yes.
And so this is what his message is. I'm just so thankful for everything he's done for me.
Yes.
And we've been talking about this new wave coming through, this revival. And I want to be there on the front lines when this happens. But I can't be on the front lines if I don't know what I'm talking about. So I have to really, really get into the Word. I love the Lord, and I know He loves me. He's brought me back from so many dark places. And it's because He loves me.
That's right.
And I don't know what else He has for me. I don't know what else He wants me to do. It's a little scary because I don't know what He's going to ask me to do, but it's exciting too. And this Thanksgiving, I have so much to be thankful for. Like, you can't let your guard down.
That's right.
Just like when you're recovering from alcohol, you can't let outside influences or you go back to drinking. And I forgot that last year. This time last year, I was in hospital. And I was in hospital because I forgot how to pray and how to trust. I was sitting in my bedroom because I couldn't get up and down my stairs. I couldn't breathe. I was in a wheelchair for almost 2 years. I could hardly go anywhere. Every time I went somewhere, my daughter had to put me in a wheelchair because I couldn't breathe. And then I couldn't go downstairs and do anything in my house. My grandsons were doing everything for me. Until I got so bad that I could hear this voice in my ear saying, there's no point in praying. Nobody's listening to you. You're going to be like this for the rest of your life. You're going to be in this room or somewhere like it. You're no good to anybody or to yourself. And then that morning I started taking pills. And I don't think I was trying to kill myself. All I could think about was I wanted to go to sleep. And that morning, God is so good. Because my grandsons were in the house. I could have said to them, take me to the hospital. I could have called my daughter. But God said, call Caroline. And I called Caroline, and she said, okay, I'll come. She thought I was calling for coffee. I just said, can I see you today? And she said, yeah. She said, I got something to do here. I've got a meeting later, and I'll be there about 11:30. So I said, fine. A little while later, a voice in my head, call Caroline. Call Caroline. So I picked up the phone, called Caroline again. I don't know what she was thinking. She must have thought I really wanted coffee really bad that morning. Because I called her again, and she said, Ann, I'll be there as soon as I can. I don't know really what she said the second time. I wasn't quite there. And then I called her again. And she said, Ann, I'm on my way. And all I remember is coming downstairs, getting into her car, and her looking at me and saying, we're not going for coffee, are we? And she said she almost lost me on the way to the hospital, but she got me there in time to save my life. And see, God is so good because He sent Caroline because He knew Caroline would be relentless and she wouldn't let go. And she visited me I was in there for over 6 weeks, and she visited me every day except for weekends. And sometimes she showed up on weekends too, because she's relentless when God asks her something. And she prayed over me every day. And I kept saying, I didn't know where I was going. And she said, there's an apartment over there for you. And I said, but the housing woman said there's nowhere for me. And everybody I talked to said, there's no chance. So I have to find an apartment before I get out of here. No, there's a place over there for you. One day before I was leaving the hospital, the girl from the housing came in and said, Ann, do you want to go into assisted care? And I said, Where? She said, over there. I said, no, where over there was. It was just over there. And so I ended up there. I should have trusted Caroline all along, but I didn't. But ever since I've been in that apartment, my life has changed. Anybody who knows me in this last year, my health and my outlook and my peace and the joy, people can see the joy in me because God has given me so much joy. And I think there's more coming, and it's overwhelming enough for that right now, but I do believe there's more blessings coming. I can't wait to see what he's going to do for me this year. But this is Thanksgiving weekend, and that's why I'm up here, because I really want to thank God.
Hallelujah.
I really want to thank him. And I am so blessed and so thankful for my family, for all of my family here at Master's Hand, who I thank God for putting me into this family, because it's beautiful to come here every Sunday and sit with people who love God as much as I love him. And we praise and we worship and we listen to the messages. And I know that everybody here, if anything is wrong with me, I know they'll be there to listen to me. I know they'll cover me in prayer. But most of all, I thank the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you for listening.